This video is about why you would want to use RAMDisk for photo and video editing. What you see here is a snapshot of one of my SSDs that has Windows 10 installed on it. I did a lot of photo and video editing, and because I didn't alter the temp file locations away from it, you can see that it has a 73% health status based on the average block erase count. So, I finally upgraded my computer, which used to have an i7-3930K that I had overclocked to 4.6 GHz daily, which I've had for over 12 years, a GTX 1080 Ti, and 64 gigabytes of DDR3 memory. I now have an i5-13600K that I overclock to 5.5 GHz daily, an RTX 3070, and 128 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. Back in 2012, I first got into using RAMDisk from DataRam, and even the AMD branded versions in 2014. It was more of a niche back then because I really didn't edit photos and videos that much. However, nowadays I do. I'm going to show you 3 different snapshots of a Crystal Disk Mark 8 benchmark. One is a 2TB NVMe SSD, the Western Digital SN850X. One is a 32GB RAM disk with DDR4 speeds of 3400 megatransfers per second. And the other is just a 4 Western Digital RAID hard drives in a 4-disk hardware RAID 10 configuration. Also, if you had 128 gigabytes of memory, here's what a 96 gigabyte RAM disk benchmark looks like. Next, you'll want to have hard drives, not SSDs, to save the RAM disk files you'll be using on it. This is in case you end up crashing or something and lose your RAM disk data. That way you'll quickly be able to get things running again if you lose your backup RAM disk file for whatever reason. You'll also want to have a hard drive instead of an SSD because every time you save your RAM disk image, you'll be writing the entire 32 gigabytes or even 96 gigabytes onto your drive, and the main purpose is to save the amount of writes to your host SSD drive. You'll experience slower reboot times because of this, but in the long run, you'll gain much more benefit than just faster boot times. Finally, what you'll want to do is either install the programs on your RAM disk, or just move the temp locations that typically go to your host operating system drive to the RAM disk instead. You'll also want to put a temp folder where you can store the files you're going to edit and delete them afterwards. As you can see, when you're all done and set up, here's what it looks like in CapCut. Mind you, I'm using an i5, a 3070 with 8 gigabytes of VRAM to edit a 4K 60fps HDR video file, and editing is very smooth and quick. Alright, I know this isn't the typical material I make, but I hope it finds a use for anyone that wants it.